Welcome back. Moving on to our first segment for today. As we mentioned, we're going to shed the light on the African Ministers of Local Development Conference that Egypt hosted. On the air today, we have the pleasure to have with us Dr. Ibrahim Ghazawi, Professor of International Relations and Sustainable Development Expert. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, first of all, I'd like to shed the light on the significance of this conference.
Well, it comes at a time for us in Egypt, and also for all African countries, and I have to say for the whole world, that made cooperation is a must for all communities in the world. And when we talk about local development process itself, I would place it at the core heart of challenges today for all African countries together. And Egypt has always been a leading country, not only in the Middle East, but also in Africa. And Egypt maintained over different phases of our history very cordial and tight relations with our brothers in African countries. So the relation between Africa and Egypt does not need to be proven again. Well, the idea today is we feel, and we had to feel more and more, the necessity of collaboration, especially in such a challenging time that all of us in Africa are facing today. For many considerations indeed. On top of them, our internal challenges in our countries in Africa, because individuals on the street, they are in vital need for development. They are in vital need for a better vision for their future. They are in vital need to tackle their problems. And they are in vital need for a better future for their kids and families. And it's not differing in Lesotho or in Egypt or in South Africa or Algeria or Tunisia or Mauritania or whatever. We all in the same pot of challenges. When we talk about this conference, about local development, it is a step, a very strong step in a long way to development, to sustainable development. And I must say that we don't have other alternatives. We have to rely on each other. We realize more and more every day that a single country cannot do it alone. We talk about actually not only sustainable development, but also fighting obstacles that stop us from developing, like fighting terrorism, like fighting organized crimes, like fighting natural disasters, like climate change, for instance. The drought that hits a lot of places in the world today, and even strong European countries are deeply suffering from this issues.
Sir, we are talking about Egypt's leading role in Africa, and we have seen recently how Egypt is playing a crucial role in this respect, and many things changed around. So if I'm talking about the sustainable development, which is the main core, and we have of course the African vision as well. So how do you see this, and how do you see the steps taken so far?
I have to say that we have a long way of strenuous efforts to overcome and tackle these challenges of sustainable development. Africa is a virgin continent with a lot of potentials, and I've been to most of African countries in different occasions, and I like to be there always. You know, you feel that it's places of many and endless potentials, but unfortunately so far most of these potentials are not utilized today. They are not used in the right direction, and some brothers in some African countries are suffering from internal security problems or armed conflicts or whatever, and others of course are suffering from chronic problems of poverty and lack of good planning for changing realities. And in such situation comes the conference on local development as a very inevitable step to change these realities. We have to realize that we can do a lot to change the problems that we are suffer from. a model here is Egypt itself. In recent years, we have a lot of progress in many lines of development altogether. Although we have gone through Corona plight with its problems, and we have gone also through and still the crisis coming to us by or through the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, which had affected the whole world and had placed us not only in Egypt or in Africa, but the whole world indeed in such a tight position, where a lot of things that were much easier before today are very difficult, and the soaring prices of food and other products, and the lack of security in international economic relations that today became unfortunately very unpredictable. You cannot, you don't know what will happen after not a day or even after an hour or two. Prices are progressing, getting high and high over hours. That is a real challenge for us, and we have to work together. We have to address the problems from the roots. That's why I say in Egypt we have learned lessons. We have positive learned lessons in that issue, even through these tough times that Egyptians are suffering from all the aspects of this problem worldwide, rising prices, lack of some items, or delay of progress in economy and other mechanisms of handling our problems. But at the very same time, the progress continues, the development continues.
I think the main challenge is always the sustainability.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the development.
That's exactly this is a magic word.
So are we so far on the right track
yes,
when it comes to the sustainability of all the developments that are taking place?
Well, with a lot of difficulties, yes, and the individuals are suffering. But this is unfortunately inevitable. I mean, we have to do this. We don't have alternatives. We have to go through.
It's not a choice.
Yes, it's not a choice. We have to build on. We have to carry on moving, and we should not stop any progress in any line at any cost. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in stalemate, and instead of progressing, we will find ourselves, in a recession position, getting back, not instead of moving ahead. That's why I see this sort of gathering today or yesterday and the previous days in that conference is a manifestation of accountability towards each other in Africa. We have to face it. We need each other. We have to join hands together. We have to be on the same lines of cooperation. And we have this, the two terminologies. Is it complementary or competitiveness? Today we need to be complementary to each other instead of being competitive to each other. Well, competitiveness in itself is not a bad thing, but if you rely only on competitiveness, you will not cooperate. That's the main obstacle that...
Or we can put it just like, in other words, it has to be a win-win policy among all parties.
Exactly. Well, we have also to admit that interests are not identical in different countries. Of course, every country is keen to gain more profits and more advantageous position in terms of its economic relations with other countries.
But together, it's going to be different.
Yes, exactly. That is the main issue. If we do it together, we double our gains. And we all win, and we all move faster in terms of tackling existing problems and in terms of getting rid of our chronic, sufferings like lack of planning, lack of visions, being immersed in our internal problems without this expansive vision of things that could allow us to move ahead and to change this, bad realities. And sometimes we can do that together. And I have to say that in African countries, indeed, this sort of cordial relations that connect Egypt with our brothers in Africa is usually in a very warm conditions. We feel attached to each other. We feel that we have one vision and one future. We have more or less one a set of problems that we all suffer from, but we can help each other. We can double to many times our gains from what we have today of our natural resources if we manage to cooperate together, if we manage to employ each and every country's capabilities in one mainstreaming pot where we all can work together, where we all can share our successes, when we all share sometimes failures, because sometimes negative lessons are very instructive. We should not go through it again. We should not repeat such lessons.
Gaining experience.
Yes, we have to gain experiences. And also we have to rely on the good relations with international institutions, like the conference that we are talking about today, with the presence of so many international organizations concerned with the local development process. And I see the world outside is willing to help, to assist. It's our responsibility today how to utilize this sort of assistance, how to magnify the outcomes. And I'm quite sure that if we do this in the right way, we can lessen the time duration of change to the future, to progress. We can shorten this time to the minimal level. At the very same time, we can maximize the gains and benefits behind this if we really could implement that sort of cooperation together. And I'm quite sure that the vision today is clearer than it like a year ago.
I'm just going to talk about this part in particular because it has to do also with the transparency of the Egyptian leadership. Being involved in all the challenges, being involved in all steps taken or adopted, procedures adopted by the Egyptian leadership. And I'd like to move into the speech delivered by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli. He was very keen to show and to talk more about many important points, and I think there were many messages also that one can read throughout his speech, if you agree with me.
Yeah, of course I do agree. And the speech of Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli yesterday, or in this conference, has focused on very important points. On top of them, our need in Africa to cooperate and to learn from each other, our need to handle our chronic problems openly, and our need to utilize our capabilities and the availability of learned lessons. And I'm quite sure also that the chance of African delegations present today in Africa and the delegation visits to different Egyptian mega projects that is underway today, on top of them the new administrative capital and the Grand International Museum and the Museum of Civilizations and the network of roads and infrastructure process in Egypt that have been going for years today and started to yield its positive feedback. This is, and before I forget also the initiative of Haya Karima, Decent Life for Egyptians, which is planned to spend more than 700 billion Egyptian pounds over a few years to change a lot of difficult realities in rural areas in Egypt. This is all a manifestation of a firm determination of political leadership in Egypt to change the realities that we were talking about at the beginning. Yes, we have to admit we have a lot of problems. We cannot deny this. Well, some of these problems is internal. We have inherited that from different decades before. A lot of failures in administration and remoteness between government and the community. A lot of unsuccessful plans for development over tens of years that has left Egyptian economy very weak and fragile. But yes, we, as from 12-16, started strong economic reform programs that changed a lot of realities. Unfortunately, there were some obstacles that were placed in our way, involuntarily from us, like I said COVID-19 problems, and that is a universal challenge, and the crisis in Ukraine and Russia, and that's another universal crisis that's still going today and has a lot of bad effects on all the threads of relations in our world today, and left its black marks on economy, on security, on sustainability of development, on the capabilities of different countries, especially third world countries with their relatively weaker economies, to abilities to resist such emergency situations. And this is all realities we have all to face. We should not just stand still and leave things happen the way it wants. That's what Egypt does today. The determination of the political leadership in Egypt to make the progress continuous in all threads of development like it was before the crisis is really very good, and a message to all that we have a firm belief that we need progress. Sustainable development is not a choice, is not a luxurious option for us, it's a must. And some people might think, oh, why don't we stop progressing in such mega projects for some years, and instead investing this money in food and okay, but what will happen after a few years? Then you will find yourself without infrastructure, you will find yourself unable to open your market for foreign investors to come. They will not come to you. You will find yourself even in a much darker and worse situation than you are today. And I have to ask our distinguished viewers to go back to our recent history, the United States history in 1930s, during the great stagnation process or the financial global crisis that hit United States for nearly 5 or 6 years, from 1933 to probably 1938. At that time was very tough for the American people, and at the very same time, this is the time that the United States government or administration had constructed the widest network of infrastructure in America in 19th century. What is the message there? The message is, yes, even if we are suffering from problems in the economy, but it doesn't mean that we have to stop investing on the structure of this economy. Otherwise, you will find that it will collapse all of a sudden without even you being noticing what is going on. So for your economy not to collapse, you have to work on all the threads together.
The infrastructure is the main pillar.
It's a main pillar. And some people might think that this is for investors. No, it's yes, for investment, of course, but for normal individuals also to live and enjoy, such infrastructure. And yes, it is mainly targeting, encouraging investors, whether internally or international investment process, to come to Egypt, but for home benefits, for the individual benefits. If the foreign investors come here and construct a factory or a firm or a technological apparatus or factory or industrial firms or whatever, he will employ or they will employ Egyptians. Unemployment, so unemployment rate will be lessened. It will be bringing updated technologies to change the stagnant technology that in most of the times is very backward, but we need to make update. And this update will be happening and progressing if you bring foreign investors to come here, and you will change the reality of the whole, region, because you are changing the turn of economy. You are bringing strong capitals. You are bringing updated technologies. You are bringing most advanced techniques of administration and project management processes from the whole world, and this all goes in the direct interest of normal individuals on the street. And at the very same time, it tackles the chronic shortcomings in the structure of our economy that kept going for years and years without real handling, without real treatment. And I think one of the most, positive efforts from President Sisi since he took office in 2014 was addressing problems from roots, not just giving some sedatives or temporary solutions. No, a lot of problems were tackled from the beginning. We talk about electricity today, for instance. You have very strong infrastructure in electricity and energy in general. Talk about natural gas production and the new discoveries that have moved Egypt from a totally country depending on importing to a country exporting. And in a situation like that, in a critical time like the time we go today, you saved more than probably $700 or $800 million a month that were dedicated to import natural gas. And I have to remind people that a lot of these discoveries were linked to the efforts of the political leadership to demark the boundaries, the lines between maritime borders in the Mediterranean Sea or in the Red Sea, and accordingly allowed our government to make contracts with international firms working on oil industry to come and make discoveries and invest billions of dollars in that industry. So as I said, it's a lot of threads, going in parallel lines together. And again, I have to say that we don't have this luxury of, stopping one of them. They all must go in all directions. And we as individuals have to understand that, yes, we have a lot of problems, but these problems today mostly coming to us from outside. It's a mega power that no country today able to resist. Even the most or the strongest economies in the world, talking about the United States itself, talking about Germany and Japan and United Kingdom, by the way, who announced a lot of procedures to cope with their shortage in energy and the high, the soaring prices of energy in these countries, to the limit that they have taken very severe procedures to control this. And we need also to rely on the natural resources in Africa. That's, I think, one of the main issues in this conference, to pinpoint or shed the light on our potentials, to utilize them. And part of the issue is also the administration in general. We need to update our vision of administration, our vision of the relation between public employees or public agents and normal individuals. And the individuals today, and it must be also previously, we as a community, we own governments. The government usually serve communities. Mm-hmm. And one of the main factors of stability in any society is that normal people on the streets feel that the governmental circles are really serving them the way they can. So one of the main challenges in local development in Africa today is administration, how to upgrade the level of administration. Yes.
I think also this was one of the major files that were discussed. So Dr. Ibrahim Ghazawi, Professor of International Relations and Sustainable Development, thank you very much for joining us.
You are welcome.
Right, moving on to a quick break, then we'll be back.